G'day, welcome to Bradley's Bakehouse, where today we're going to be tackling cookies. Stick around for this one. This one's going to be really good. So I find like the viral cookie thing really interesting because I think of all of the things that it's possible to make a really good version of at home, good cookies are really easy to make. You don't need any equipment, you just need like a little bit of setup and like a little bit of patience, and you can get cookies that will blow anything out of the water, especially when they're fresh. We've got like a classic chocolate chip cookie that has like a little secret ingredient in it to like sort of just elevate it a little bit. And we've also got like a really like brownie, like fudgy dark chocolate rye cookie, which I think is a little bit of a dark horse. That is wordplay. Okay, so for our regular chocolate chip cookies, we've got some plain flour or all-purpose flour, or whatever you call it, not bread flour, importantly. We've got some butter. We've got brown sugar and white sugar. I think it's important to use both kinds, not just for like flavor and aroma, but also for like color and texture as well. I think the brown sugar does something a little bit funky that I think is important to this recipe. We've got 1 egg plus 1 extra egg yolk, just for like a little bit of richness and sort of creaminess, I guess you could say. We've got some vanilla essence, because of course we do. We've got equal parts dark and white chocolate chips. I really like having more than one kind of chocolate chip. I think aesthetically it's really pleasing, and I think taste-wise. That being said, you could totally do like 1 part chocolate chips and 1 part nuts. You could do just about anything that you want. It's pretty versatile like that. The actual biscuit dough is sweet enough to accommodate just about anything. We've got a little bit of baking soda, and we've got our secret ingredient, which is this. This is fresh nutmeg, and we're gonna add this because one thing that I've found with a lot of your Instagram cookies and a lot of your TikTok cookies, TikTokies, if you will, is that you get one flavor note. It is just fucking blind, unrelenting, unfathomable sweetness. We're gonna add the nutmeg because it's gonna add a little bit of depth, and it's gonna add like a little bit of spice, and it's not just gonna make them taste really good, it's gonna make them smell really good, and it's gonna sort of, you're gonna take a bite of it and you're gonna be like, oh, it's sweet, but there's also something a little bit interesting going on there. I want to investigate and have another bite. You can substitute that. You could put cinnamon in there. You could put like a little bit of like mixed spice if you've got like a little bit of ginger, a little bit of like lemon rind, just something that is not blindly outrageously sweet. I think really kind of elevates and adds like a few extra tasting notes that I think something like a fucking chocolate chip cookie needs. Because my God, I'm so done with like just doughy sweet nonsense. Okay, so the first thing that we're actually gonna do is brown our butter. Like I said, making good cookies does take a little bit of prep and a little bit of like stuff to do beforehand. So browning butter, you just kind of keep it over like a low to low medium heat until it's brown, I guess. So browning our butter is gonna do a few things. It's gonna concentrate a lot of the like buttery sort of flavors by reducing the amount of water content in the butter. And it's also gonna bring in kind of like a deeper, nuttier, sort of earthy kind of vibe, which is just gonna add like more depth. The real aim of the game with making, I think, good cookies is depth. I think if you can sort of scratch an itch in the palate that's like a bit over just like sweet, especially that kind of like sweetness that like gets on your teeth and you like feel it. If you can provide like an experience that kind of is outside of that, I think you've done a pretty good job already. This is the kind of thing that you don't really want to walk away from. I know it's gonna take a few more minutes, but I swear to God, if I walk away, it'll start burning. So just baby it a little bit. This is the most hands-on fucking part of this recipe, is the fact that you just gotta stand here and stir butter for a while. You can also see, so the butter's starting to like clarify now. It's not quite as yellow, it's kind of become translucent. Clarified butter. In case you didn't know, I don't know, we try to be educational here. I don't just want to throw recipes at you. I want to talk about food sciencey stuff because that stuff interests me. You can really sort of start to see the milk solids sort of separating. And like the smell will hit you as well. Like that just got real nutty and real like interesting. Yeah, cool. So I'm gonna call that. Now, one thing that I like to do is I kind of like to measure the difference that I've made. So I started out with 150 grams of cold fresh butter. I'm gonna weigh this to see what I've reduced it to, because I know from making this recipe a ton of times, I want about 115 grams at the end of this, and I've got 116. So I'm pretty happy with how brown that is. So I'm gonna call that, and that is our brown butter there. Now, you could strain that if you were a fucking nerd. I don't really see the point, and I'm not going to. So I'm gonna throw this in the fridge to cool, because that needs to come down to a temperature that's low enough that it's not gonna cook our egg and it's not gonna melt our chocolate chips. So, into the fridge with this, and we'll assemble our dry ingredients. The first thing that's gonna go in this mixing bowl, brown sugar and white sugar. I'm just gonna give them just like a little cursory mix. Now, in goes our butter. Our butter's still a little bit warm, but we did the sugar first because the sugar's gonna really tank the heat of that butter. Okay, so for not weirdos, tank means absorb. It means that the sugar's gonna absorb the heat of the butter. Stir that all around, get it all stirred in. In's gonna go our egg. And our extra yolk. In's gonna go our vanilla. I'm eyeballing it, but just do a teaspoon. You'll be happier for it. Pinch of salt. Never, ever, 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 ever forget the pinch of salt. In fact, if you're not doing the pinch of salt, that's probably why your cookies don't taste as good as store-bought ones. Cool. So we're gonna add half our flour now. Very technical. I'm definitely measuring this. Half now. Baking soda. And then in goes the other half. This is just to make mixing it more manageable. If you're doing this in a machine, just dump it all in. I don't care, and neither do you. You don't want to overwork it though if you're using a machine, because you will start to develop gluten in an unnecessary kind of way. You don't really want that. It's not the end of the world though. Still bake them. Like if you leave it mixing and the dough gets a bit tough, still bake them. It's just a fucking waste not to. Or even better yet, if you do overmix them and you do develop it, dump the batter into a slice pan and bake it as like a brownie. Thank me later. Right, so we've got that now, and in's gonna go our additions. So in go our dark chocolate chips and our white chocolate chips. You kind of realize how interesting the ratio is at this point for chips, and that's because you're making chocolate chip cookies, you're not making cookies with chocolate chips. You're making fucking chocolate chip cookies, right? Good amount of chips. I crunched the numbers once. I think this is like 34% chocolate chips, this recipe, at 120 grams of like both kind. But that'll come together really easily. That's kind of why we don't let the butter get super cool, because that batter came together like really nice and easily. That's like pretty evenly dispersed. You could use your hand if you wanted to disperse them a little bit more evenly. But like that there is a gorgeous, if not quite warm, cookie batter. I'm happy with that. How's that taste? I'm eating raw eggs on the internet, leave me alone. So from that taste there, that's quite blindly sweet, right? There's a little bit of depth from the vanilla and there's a little bit of depth from the brown butter, but we're gonna add a little bit more now in the form of our nutmeg. Now, nutmeg can be pretty fucking brutal. You can really easily add too much nutmeg. So just go a tiny bit at a time. I'm using a microplane, you could use a grater. I'm just gonna add a little bit at a time, like that much. That is the amount that I added. I basically just put a little shoulder on this nutmeg. Just a tiny bit. I remember once I learned the hard way, the whole nutmeg thing, because I made rice pudding once, because I just really wanted rice pudding and I had all the stuff. And I was like, I really want this to taste like nutmeg. And I went so hard on the nutmeg and I had one bite. And it's not that I like nearly vomited, but I definitely didn't want to eat more. Tiniest bit more. Cool, and that's it. That's all I'm gonna do. I'm gonna call it on that. So that nutmeg, earthiness, nuttiness, megginess. When these are fully baked and you can like smell them in the room and stuff, and your palate can appreciate that extra like layer of depth, that extra like thing that you've done to engage more of your taste buds and engage more of your mouth, you will never go back to not adding the weird secret ingredient that you can brag to your friends about. Now, the final and very unfortunate step of making this cookie dough is that we need to let this rest in the fridge. I'm gonna say overnight. I wish it was a shorter period of time. I think it's gotta be overnight though. I don't really think that part of this recipe is optional. I think for them to be the way that like I intended them to be, it's gotta be a minimum of an overnight rest. That's gonna do a few things. The flour is gonna hydrate, some of the sugar is gonna like break down, and it's gonna instill a very kind of light toffee-y sort of flavor to it. And they're also gonna really hold their shape really well when they're like thoroughly chilled and they baked. If you bake cookies and they spread out and it turns into like a big sheet of just piss, that's probably because your cookie dough was too warm when they hit the oven. Butter needs to be cold to emulsify, and that's how you get like a nice, strong, like tall, thick, chunky cookie and not like a thin, crispy thing. There's a time and a place for a thin, crispy thing. It's just not what this recipe is. So this dough is gonna go in the fridge overnight and we're gonna bake these off tomorrow. What's up? It's the next day. Our cookie dough has been resting overnight and we're ready to bake them off. As you can see, this cookie dough is nice and hard, nice and firm. Our oven is preheated to 180 degrees. There's a couple little steps that I want you to do to sort of guarantee the best quality product. This is a 1/4 cup measure. I'm going to measure each cookie individually to the weight of a 1/4 cup. Now, if you do this, you should get a dozen cookies out of the recipe. It's also, the shape of this one, it's got like a sort of dome shape. it just guarantees a good round cookie and you don't have to do anything afterwards. So I'm gonna get a spoon and I'm gonna spoon this cookie dough into our 1/4 cup, stuff it into the mold. It's not a mold, it's a cup measure, but stuff it in there. And then using that same spoon, we're just gonna scoop that out, and that's a cookie. We're not gonna do anything else to that. We're not gonna do any additional shaping. That there is a cookie. I know it looks kind of ugly now, but just go with me on this. Beautiful. So there's our 6 cookies there. Cookie dough's going back in the fridge. One last little move that I love to do is, this is just a mix of our white and dark chocolate chips. I'm a really big stickler for visual indicators in the things that I bake. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take a few of these. I'm just gonna put these like front and center, right on top of the cookie, right? And then as these bake out, these will stay on top and you'll be able to definitely tell like what's in the cookie. And it's just gonna aesthetically, I think it really elevates the look of the cookie more than just about anything. You know when you get like a really lovely chocolate chip cookie or whatever, and the top is just kind of like a flat brown and you have to like bite into it to actually see the chocolate chips? I think this method is really a good way of counteracting that. I think it's just like a nice little bit of insurance to keep the cookies looking on that kind of like commercial sort of level. So these are ready to go into the oven now. They're gonna go in for about 11 minutes and we're gonna rotate them about 5 minutes in to get some even cooking going. They're just gonna go in the center rack, 180-degree oven, ready to go. All right, so our cookies are just out of the oven now. They look pretty fucking incredible, if I do say so myself. They're nice and round. This is round enough that I'm not gonna do the cup trick. You all know the cup trick. You're watching a fucking baking show. These are functionally still uncooked, right? These are gonna set up and they're gonna finish cooking on this tray, because let's remember, food doesn't stop cooking until it's cold. So they're gonna sit on this hot tray for probably about 10 minutes before I move them to a wire rack, because if we look at these now, these are still soft and very malleable, right? They're gonna firm up as they cool down, but before they firm up, I'm just gonna hit them with some flaky salt, because I do it like that, because I think flaky salt on cookies is the best thing ever. And when I first discovered it, I was in awe. So one really good way to check for doneness is like these edges, you want them to be just starting to turn a deeper shade of brown. You'll see a little bit of burnishing and a little bit of color come into the white chocolate chips. That's like a look that I really love. That might just be a me thing, I don't know, I don't particularly care. But like, I think personally, that is a super gorgeous look, and that's definitely why I love putting the white chocolate chips on these cookies. As you can see, dotting the chocolate chips around the top, these are really clearly chocolate chip cookies. These do not give you any indication that there is a date or a raisin in fucking sight. These are chocolate chip cookies. You are going to have a good time. You are not going to be challenged. Enjoy your beautiful nutmeggy chocolate chip cookies when they've cooled down. All right, so our second batch of cookies is just gone to the oven. Our first batch of cookies is ready to come off the baking tray. I like to use a metal spatula for this just because it's nice and quick and clean. And we're gonna let these finish cooling down on a wire rack so they don't sweat. As you can see, these aren't like liquid anymore. They've fully cooked through from sitting on the hot tray, and they are nice and rigid, or about as rigid as we want them to be. They're still gonna be soft and they're still gonna be chewy, but they're gonna hold their shape now. You know, like I can pick this up and I can manipulate it, right? It's still like a little bit soft, but it's also, the bottom's nice and thoroughly cooked. That is a gorgeous cookie. It smells incredible. I will not hear anything otherwise. I would be super happy to buy this. I would be super happy to receive this. These cookies earned me friends. Like, these cookies get me invited to things. I think that these chocolate chip cookies, I think they will go toe to toe with just about anything that you could buy from a specialty bakery or otherwise, and I will die on that hill. Alrighty, here are our fully cooled chocolate chip cookies. I'm gonna break one in half. See that like nice sort of gooey, oh goodness, I hope that was in focus because that was fantastic. How do these taste? As good as I remember? Oh my goodness. I have been slain. Seriously, try the nutmeg. Just try the nutmeg, humor me. Try the nutmeg, or put citrus peel or cinnamon or just like something in there and just feel how much more of your mouth activates than when it's just like sugar, butter, and chocolate. Oh, that's divine. Oh man, I want to be my own friend now. Okay, so the ingredients for our dark chocolate rye cookies are very similar, but there are a few differences. So one, there's now a split in the flour. We've got bread flour, and we've also got this beautiful stone ground rye flour. You don't have to use rye flour that's that fancy. That's just what I have, because I'm a fancy boy. We've previously discussed this. We've got our butter that we've already browned. We've got our sugar, exact same amount of sugar. We've got 1 egg and 1 egg yolk, same again. We've got cocoa powder. We've got some dark chocolate that we're gonna melt. We've got our vanilla extract. We've got our baking soda. And we've also got this little number. Now this is kind of like our secret ingredient again, just like the nutmeg was. This is dark malt, and it is incredibly addictive. Dark malt smells like earthy, vegetal, in like a kind of smoldering, like the wood fire oven out the back of the fucking European bakehouse that's been going since 1903. Like, that's what it smells like to me, and it's fucking perfect. I'm swearing a lot in this episode. Aren't I? The first thing that we need to do for this, for our rye cookie, is we need to get our chocolate melted, because we need to get it cooling down. You could overthink melting chocolate. I'm not going to. It's going into a microwave-safe container, and it's going to go in the microwave till it's melted. Chocolate is melted. We did that first because we need that to like kind of come down to room temperature. Just like before, sugar's in first. In goes our chocolate. Now, like I said, we're putting that in first because that sugar's probably going to absorb most of that heat, any residual heat that we want to get rid of. That we're worried about maybe the eggs coming in contact with or whatever. That sugar's gonna take care of that. The melted chocolate I think is really important for this recipe. It kind of gives it like a fudgy, brownie-esque sort of quality. Brown butter, probably wasn't as brown as the last batch we did, but whatever, we'll survive, hey? Stir that up, get that all combined. In goes the egg. And our egg yolk. Baking soda. In with the flour, flour in. It's a little bit more of like a liquidy batter, this one, and there's not like bits, there's not like additions and extra little bitties to sort of like thicken her up, but in goes the rye. Vanilla, again, just use a teaspoon, you'll be happier. I'm eyeballing it because I've done this so many times. Dark malt and cocoa. Just get your hand in there, sort of fold it on itself a few times. There's the salt that I forgot. There's more rye flour in this than there is white flour, so you can kind of roughhouse it a bit more without it developing gluten, because rye just doesn't work that way. We'll get to it. We'll do rye eventually, I promise. Much like our chocolate chip dough, this is gonna have to go in the fridge overnight before we can bake it. So for the baking of our rye cookies, it is gonna be the exact same procedure. We're gonna load up our 1/4 cup measure, we're gonna compact it a little bit, and then we're gonna turn them out onto a sheet tray. It's gonna be the exact same. We're gonna keep the batter as cold as we can. It's the exact same baking time, it's the exact same baking temperature. Don't overthink it. Like I said, if you do these each at a 1/4 cup, you should get a dozen cookies out of the recipe. Maybe there'll be a little bit of dough left over. Maybe there'll be a little bit skint on the last one, but it should get you around a dozen 1/4 cupfuls. These are just gonna go in the oven. We don't have anything to top these with. We're not gonna top them with anything apart from some flaky salt when they come out, but here go our first half dozen rye cookies. Right, so here are our rye cookies. They look a bit funny, and that's because we've got a little step here, right? So we're gonna take a metal spatula. You could use any kind of spatula as long as it doesn't have like slots or anything like that. And we're just gonna flatten them out. Shit you not, that's what we're doing. We'll flatten them out. Give them that nice like crackly rye sort of texture, like that kind of like vibey sort of cracked rye look. If you ever buy like 100% rye loaf, a lot of the time they don't score them, they just dust them with flour and then they let them crack open naturally, and it gives you that kind of craggly mottled sort of look. You don't have to do that. You can leave them as just like rounds or lumps or whatever you want to call them, but I think thematically, like I said, I'm a stickler for visual indicators. I like the cracked look, personally. That's just me. Like the chocolate chip cookies, I'm just gonna sprinkle these with a little bit of salt while they're still warm and malleable. And those are our rye cookies. They'll cool down quite a bit and solidify a bit, and then I'll let them cool fully on a rack, just like we did with the chocolate chip cookies. Exact same process. And then we'll have a taste, hey? Here's our plate of beautiful, dark, sultry rye cookies. Oh, it's just like a brownie. Yeah. Like the nuttiness from the rye flour, like the deep, unctuous malt. It's just so like, it's kind of consuming. Like it makes you lose your train of thought, you know? You get like a little bit of the bitterness. There's like a little bit of like almost coffee-like bitterness at the front. And then the sweetness just sort of washes around your mouth and it just kind of just like clears your thoughts. Like I'm just imagining one of those heart rate monitors where you take your bite, beep, beep, beep. Does that make any sense? Does that make any sense? Thank you so much for watching this episode of Bradley's Bakehouse. I certainly hope that you got something from this. Good cookies are one of the easiest things to make at home. As you saw, I used no equipment. It's just like a little bit of setup time and a little bit of patience, and you can have something that I truly do believe will rival just about anything that you could buy at one of these viral cookie pop-ups. These recipes, particularly the chocolate chip recipe, can be incredibly modular. You know, I said at the beginning, but you could use nuts instead of chocolate, you could use caramel bits, you could use just about anything. This is like a highly customizable blank canvas biscuit that you can put anything that you want. I myself personally just really like the white and the dark chocolate chips. I just think that's a really nice thing that suits my taste really well. If you want to try something a little bit different for a change, try the rye cookie as well. There's like a few nice little benefits. It's kind of just like a convenient brownie, and also you can pretend that it's a little bit healthier because it uses rye flour. Either way, whether you make like the rich multi-rye cookie or the sweet but also a little bit interesting, because remember we added the nutmeg chocolate chip cookie. I hope you have a wonderful time making these and definitely impressing your friends and family with them, because these are absolute showstoppers. Anybody would love to receive these, and I hope you have a good time making them. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you like. We've got some cool things coming up. Have a good one.